A pleasant and overcast Saturday afternoon to one and all who are viewing us all around the world. It is overcast in Maarten from what we've been told. There are flooding in various islands in the other areas of the Caribbean. Thank you to all of you for coming and viewing us for another live stream of our program, Interact. As always, we want to welcome you from all around the world. Needless to mention the countries that we are being viewed from, especially by friends and those who know the program, as well as family members and officials who view us from time to time. We want to welcome also you, for the first time viewers. We want to welcome you on our live stream of Interact. Before we get into any other information that we want to give, I will ask Jeffrey to just say a few words to you. He's behind the camera, but you can hear his voice, and by now you will recognize Jeffrey's voice. So I'd like Jeffrey to say a few words before we get right into the program.
Good afternoon, Roberto. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to say a few words to all of the guests. I know some people came on already. I want to thank all of you who's going to be on this afternoon. And hope that you will enjoy this program. I know it's going to be very special because we are in a different stage of season where our government is concerned, and we'll be talking a lot about that particular issue on this particular program. So again, enjoy the program. If you have any questions, you can also ask any questions that you feel that you can ask to us, and if we can answer you, we will do so. You take care, have a good day, and I'll give the floor back over to Roberto.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. As I always say, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to host this program. Today, you would have noticed, based on the information that Jeffrey may have passed on Facebook, that we are what we call home alone or alone, him and I, and we will be discussing some topics that are going to be very interesting and very informative to you, the live stream viewers. At the last minute, we had to cancel our special guest for today's Saturday for medical reasons, and sometimes these things do happen. So we have to be prepared for that. And in the event that happens, then we will have to then take over the show ourselves and then discuss whatever topic we have prepared or not prepared, or basically we would be touching on areas or topics based on whatever responses we are getting from the screen, and Jeffrey can see responses that he's getting from the screen on the screen from you, the live stream viewers. But nevertheless, we want to go in a specific area today. But before getting into that, I just want to say greetings to all of you who are celebrating your birthday or a special anniversary. I read somewhere on Facebook that there was some friends of ours having special anniversaries. I can't remember some of their names, but I know our good friend Claudius Boncampos celebrated his birthday yesterday, and some others as well. We want to say happy birthday to all of you, and we wish you all of God's blessing.
Gina Illich as well.
Gina Illich, happy birthday to you as well. I know there are some other people I know on the Butchers chat. There were a lot of family members who that celebrating their birthdays. So we want to wish
Corsilio, which is
happy birthday,
Drusilla's son.
Yes, so Auntie Drusilla's son, his birthday, and all of you folks all around the world, we want to say happy birthday to you. But at the same time, we want to, at a sad note, we want to give our deepest condolences to friends and families, and in this case, we want to especially single out Ramona Thomas, as well as our incoming Minister of Finance, Marinka Gums, with the loss of Leroy. And he passed away a few days ago, and there's a lot going on there. I met them at the ceremonies yesterday, and what I can say is that I admire how strong they are and what they've been going through during his time of illness. Nevertheless, we want to just say to them via this medium, and our prayers are with you. Condolences also to the Democratic Party family as well, and we wish you God's strength. So if there's nothing else specifically that we need to touch on, Jeffrey, I would want to just get into the topic for today, and basically, um, and I made a lot of notes about it too, because I want to be very, very, how should I say, specifically informative, because it is also informing and educating you as to the structure, government structure as well, because we hear a lot of things. We hear about elections, we hear about elections for parliament, and then we hear about formation of government, and etc., etc., and council of ministers and formateurs and informateurs and all of that. And many of you may not understand what it's all about. And Jeffrey, I would hope that you would jump in to assist me in this area as well. But and those of you who are on stream, on live stream, for you who have the knowledge and the information to give it, to also give in, speak in, send a message, so that we are able to give as much information to the population, the world population who are viewing us on live stream, because knowledge is strength, knowledge is power, and so it is very important that we are able to pass this on to you. So I just wanted to, because I made a few notes here on my cell phone, which I always do, and I'm looking here at the screen of the invitation for, and which is, by the way, which is something very, very unique, because it's the first time, because we had the swearing in ceremony of the new Council of Ministers, so the ministers for the new government of St. Maarten 2024-2028, and on the invitation it says to join us to witness the symbolic transition of power, followed by the welcoming reception. But the symbolic transition of power, I just want to state here that this is something that we have never experienced before when it came to a transition of government, where we would have a new sitting council of ministers. If I am wrong, Jeffrey, please correct me. I think that this is the first time that we have had government put together a structure, a format of bringing into office the new council of ministers. Am I correct to say that?
No, we always had new council of ministers.
No. I'm talking about the format, the whole process of what took place. Because normally they have the swearing in at the governor's office, and at the governor's mansion, as I would call it, the governor's palace, you know. And then they are sworn in there. They give the oath of office through that process, and then from there.
This time they use the government building.
Normally, and then after that they would then go to a first meeting of the Council of Ministers, the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, to establish, whether it is symbolic, to establish a first meeting of the Council of Ministers. But I want to just go back before all that, because there's a whole process of the history of how that happens. All of that happens to where we ended up yesterday, where there is a new government form with an 8-seat majority. I want to say right now, before I do forget, congratulations to the 4 parties that have formed a coalition. They all are known to you, the parties of the URSM, the Democratic Party, the Party for Progress, PFP, as well as the Now Party. We want to say congratulations to all 4 of you for being able to come together through your leadership to put together a governing accord to present to the governor, His Excellency Mr. Bailey, and to be able to have a majority out of the 15, a majority of 8, which we've been talking about, the 2, 4 times 2, whatever you want to call it. That's what has happened, and it is finally, so this government of 4x2 or 2x4 is finally here. It is official. The government is in office. We have a new Prime Minister, and we have a new Council of Ministers. And before that, going back into the election of January 11th, of the parliamentary election, specifically, we had a new parliament established, elected, of 15 members. They are known to all of you, and that process has already taken place, where we have already the President of Parliament. I want to single out the President of Parliament, the Honorable Sir Westcott Williams. She was at that time appointed unanimously by all 15 members of Parliament, yes, to be the new President of Parliament. And so during the time that we were coming up to yesterday formation of a new government. We had a new parliament in place, but at the same time we had a new parliament with the old council of ministers, the old government, the Sylvia Jacobs government cabinet was still in office until such time as they ceased to exist yesterday, the 3rd of May 2024. So we also know that by law they can have dual responsibility where these past ministers could sit in parliament and be a member of parliament as well as continue to be a minister for a period of 90 days.
3 months, yeah.
3 months to be exact.
That's correct.
So we know that that period was going to terminate on the 4th.
No.
4th of,
On the 10th of
on the
May.
4th of, sorry. Thank you,
The 10th of
Jeffrey.
May.
On the 10th of May, we knew that period was
That
going
period would
to...
have been, yeah.
Yes, it expired. So
Yeah.
on the 10th of May, they would not be able to have dual responsibility. So the government of St. Maarten would have had to have formed. So we would have to have formed a new government of St. Maarten by the 10th of May 2024. That has happened on May 3rd, yesterday. With the process that has taken place, we're going to get into all of that. But I just wanted to talk about the dual responsibilities and how that works by law, etc. And if there's any questions that folks are asking, I appreciate, Jeffrey, if you can mention if it's something that is worthy of mentioning to the viewers, or let's say mentioning, so that I'm able to respond to it if I am able to. And then yourself, if there's anything that you would want to ask me or to jump in and to have me give information on, I would appreciate that you do that, because there's so many different things to talk about. But I wanted to take it step by step in a sort of as I say in Dutch, a stopper plum as to how the process goes. I hope that it is. I'm bringing it over very, very simple, so that all of you, the live stream viewers all around the world, can understand, let's say, how our constitution works in St. Maarten, because we know that the constitution in let's say other countries, or countries in the Caribbean region, for example, those autonomous countries like our neighboring Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, or Antigua or Dominica, or any one of those other countries, their constitution is established in a different way that I don't want to go into. So with every country it is different, but we are part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and so we have a constitution structure that is completely different to the American, the US system, or let's say the British system, or any other Caribbean, as I said before. So I'm not going into that. I want to just say that after the 11th of January, there is a process that takes place in where His Excellency the Governor will then play a leading role as to bringing the parties, all parties that were able to obtain seats, any of the 15 seats in Parliament, obtain seats to sit around the table individually and request of them, and see, get from them their platform or their vision as to how they see St. Maarten moving forward as a party. And so all various parties had their different discussions with His Excellency, as well as various stakeholders in the country, on an economic basis, on a social basis, on a whether it's health or whether it is whatever area. So all stakeholders were brought on the table to come together to put a vision as to how we see St. Maarten going forward in the widest sense of the word. That process took place, and during that process, it was the responsibility, and it is always the responsibility of His Excellency to appoint what they call in Dutch informateurs, and I would say in English that is like informators, or if you want to translate it that way, or let's say someone or people who gather information, bring information together to advise His Excellency as to how we move forward into where we want to get, which is the establishing of a majority that would form the next government of St. Maarten. So that process took place, and what we know is that at that particular point in time, the governor, His Excellency, appointed. I'm seeing here Miss Candia Joseph and Dr. Neela Adoin, and they were appointed as for informateurs at that time, and they had different discussions. We don't need to go into the details of the different discussions, but they had different discussions with the stakeholders, including all political parties that has obtained seats in Parliament. So that process took place, and yes, Jeffrey, go ahead.
I have a question. What is the role, and that is what the listeners would like to know, what is the role of the informateurs that is appointed to start the process of getting a government together?
The role of the informateurs, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can miss out some areas. The role of the informateurs, basically, as the word says, is to gather information and to present to His Excellency as to areas of common grounds of cooperation as really relates to the political parties, of bringing a majority together eventually to govern St. Maarten moving forward, in this case 2024 to 2028. So that individual, or that group of people then were appointed with the responsibility to take the lead officially in bringing all of these entities, specifically the political parties, to the table, and to see where there are common grounds of cooperation in the forming of eventually a new government for St. Maarten. But and I'd like to say, in addition to that, Jeffrey, is that it is so very important to mention that as much as that is a process in itself, the politicians in the political parties do have I would say, not the final word, but they have the influence and the power as to how a new phase of a new government will look like, because the political parties will then come together individually, and they will start to what we call lobby or jockey with another political party who has seats, in order to form a majority, and in terms of, let's say, their platforms, their vision as to where they want to see St. Maarten move forward. And if they can see themselves mutually agreeing in those areas, they say, hey, we can work together. Can we form a majority? Meaning, a majority means 7 plus 1 is 8 seats. So 8 out of the 15 would be a majority in Parliament that would come together and then establish a governing accord that would be signed upon by these parties that form a majority presented to the governor, His Excellency, indicating that this group of parties, of these parties, have agreed on black and white that we are prepared to form the next government of St. Maarten. And that took place with the 4 parties. These 4 parties, I'm talking specifically about the URSM, Democratic Party, the Party for Progress, as well as the Now Party. These 4 parties got to that point where they signed off on an agreement that was presented to the informateurs, that would be presented to His Excellency, the Governor of St. Maarten, in order for the governor then to officially accept this document of agreement, then, of governing accord of a majority, and then from that point to then thank the informateurs for, let's say, a job well done, to go to the next process or the next level, which is to appoint a formateur, someone who puts together the new government of St. Maarten. In this case, because the governor had in his hand a governing accord established by a majority of these 4 parties previously mentioned, and principally the parties normally in St. Maarten, so that the biggest party would then have the, I would say, rights, not rights, but it would be, let's say, in principle, an agreement that the biggest party would have the position of the prime minister, because it has happened that normally the formateur becomes eventually the prime minister. The individual who is the formateur becomes the prime minister. It doesn't mean that it all has to be that the case, but in normal practice that has always been the case. So what has happened in this particular case is that the formateur appointed was then the Honorable Dr. Luc Mercelina, who is also the leader of the URSM party, and then he took the responsibility of then going through the process with the governor. So the formateur, in the person of Dr. Luc Mercelina, and the governor, His Excellency Dr. Bailey, and I'm saying Dr. Bailey, but Maester Bailey, they came together and they put whatever the process that had to take place, because at that point you were going to be dealing with, when we talk about government, we're talking about the Council of Ministers, and when we're talking about the Council of Ministers, we're talking about 7 ministers, which includes the Prime Minister, which is the Minister of General Affairs, with 6 other ministers to be appointed. And when you get to that point, the governing, I would say now, the coalition parties that came together would then present their minister candidates to the governor to go through a screening process. And it is very interesting when you get to that point, because there's a lot of talk about the screening process, but in any case, I want to get through that before I go into other topics. But they go through a screening process, and that screening process deals with a lot of different things that I don't want to really get into as far as the candidates are concerned. Really indicate if they are fit to fill the position of a minister who has a responsibility towards governing the country in various areas, and good governance is one of the areas that has a lot to do with it. And so the screening process has many conditions added to it that is known to the governor, and whoever else represents the governor. I'm here looking at some notes that I made here, as well as the formateur, in this case Dr. Luc Mercelina, who also knew what the process was. But I want to touch on something before I get to that. Jeff, if you have any questions, I would like to continue, or if you have anything that you'd want to add to what I just said, I'd like to jump in and say something here before I miss that point somewhere later down in the discussion of the program.
But keep that point in your mind. But one of the things I would like to ask, because you got to be very critical about the different things that you ask when you're asking questions. There was an election, and for that particular election, you had political parties won seats.
Yes.
And the party with the biggest number of seats was the National Alliance.
Yes.
And then the second biggest amount of seats was the Up Party.
Yes.
And then the other parties came in with 2 seats each. My question to that, because we have to look very carefully on that matter.
I can see where you're going.
If you're going to bring, because it can happen to anyone, not just an A, or it can happen to the DP or the USRP or the URSM or the NO, or any one of them. They can be in government, and then they get the most seats.
Yes.
But then they're left out of government.
Yes.
Because you're able to form a government with other parties that can keep you out of government. My question to you would be this. Why is it that we as a country don't come with a policy or a law where we say, hey, the party with the most seats is able to form the government? Yeah. That kind of way. Or maybe you can say the party with the most seats, and the other parties, if you don't get majority, then you will go to a second round of voting, like how the French side does it. Yeah. Those are just you call it oh, that's a name. because for
Is
oh
it that
gosh,
different,
yeah, yeah,
different
no,
approaches,
yeah,
or what?
yeah, but it's a name we call for that law, that changing that law
Yeah, yeah,
to making sure that we come to that
but
place.
I understand what you're
But
saying
you
there.
understand where I'm coming from?
Exactly. Of course, I must understand what
Yeah.
you're saying, and that is why I always say this to everybody, no matter what people.
Oh, the name I talk about is electoral
Yes,
reform.
electoral reform is what it is.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
again, you know, I always like to say this about any subject matter that we're talking about when it relates to government, when it relates to parliament, when it relates to whatever, the council of ministers or any institution that has to do with governing a country, it it boils back down to your representatives. And when I say representatives, it boils back down to politicians. It boils back down to the desires, the wishes, the wants of politicians. It boils down to the game of politics and what suits me, at, at a particular point in time. What suits me. What I would want in opposition, I will not want when I'm in government, because when I sit in government, I realize that what I can present to parliament that may get the approval of a majority in parliament would work against me if tomorrow I'm in government. And that
Exactly.
is one of the fears that politicians have, and that's why you never get that. You never get that because you hear that, well, you will hear that the opposition in parliament say these nice things like you just said, but they do not have a majority
They
because
can't fit.
the majority of members of parliament that supports the sitting government will not support whatever law that they would present in parliament, so it will be thrown out the door, unfortunately. So everybody, I have not heard of any politician that may not want to have a change, but the point is that when you're on one side of the fence, you want it. When you're on the other side of the fence, you don't want it because it works against you, and that is why, unfortunately, Jeffrey, because of politics, it just not going to work. You wanna you Is that clear to you?
No, clear to the people.
And
The
I'm hoping
people.
if it's clear to the
I
people,
hope the people will be
you know,
able
because if they have any questions
to
to
ask
ask, you know.
questions pertaining to that.
Yeah, but what I wanted to get into, because I want to give some information as to, you know, for those, because I know that the whole program yesterday, the whole changing of the guard, and the council of ministers, appointing the council of ministers and all that, it was not on social media, so not on the Facebook, it was not on the martingov.com. So unfortunately, the people of St. Martin, the people all around the world, were not able to follow it. So a lot of different things took place. But I want to, just before I get into that ceremony yesterday and bring out some highlights, because I was there present, you know, because you could only be present based on an invitation. And just mention there, when I say based on invitation, um, it was so that the Secretariat of Government of the Council of Ministers should have been the official body that would have invited, let's say, family members, well, not family members, but special guests and whomever. The capacity of seating was determined by the Secretariat. But it seemed as if, not seem as if it was so that, whether it was incoming ministers or whomever having the influence to invite probably additional family members or additional person that they want to witness this event, did so in inviting additional people other than what was listed by the Secretariat, I would assume, because the capacity, seating capacity of the hall in the government administration building was not as such that it could accommodate all those that were there. So
The seating was not filled out completely?
no. It was filled out to capacity. What
Okay.
I'm saying is that well, those in charge had to bring in more seats, and even with the seats, that additional seating, you still had folks, but the majority was sitting eventually, but you still had folks that were standing. But in any case, it was well attended, of course, because it was a solemn event, and for all of whom were there, it had such an impact in the change of government. And I believe that for some most of whom probably were there too, and I would say affiliated to the parties, they supported their parties for change, and they were able to see this day of change come for them. And so I could see the smiles in the face of them. Of course, you had other dignitaries who came in playing neutral roles to be present because they were invited. We had, I'll just say, that you had the former prime minister then remarks, the honorable former prime minister Sylvia Jacobs. She spoke of the history of her government, the Sylvia 1 and 2 government, 1 and 2 specifically 2, and what she to experience, talking about Hurricane Irma and the whole rebuilding of St. Martin during, and then the COVID and all of that they had to experience as the NA-run government. She talked about that very briefly, and so then the new government well. I thought that she said what she needed to say in the manner that she said it, and that was well appreciated by the people that were present. So we want to thank the former prime minister for words well said. And then after that we also had, because just remember that the whole inauguration swearing in of the 9 ministers had already taken place at the 9 ministers. Let me just get to the 9 ministers. 9 ministers had already taken place at the like I said, palace of His Excellency. That took place earlier in the morning. So they all took the oath of office earlier. So when they came to this event, to this changing of the guard, they already came as ministers. So when they stepped in, they were presented by the I would say the Ministry of General Affairs or whomever protocol, whoever department was responsible for that, and with the Mistress of Ceremonies, who did a job. Ife Badejo, she did a great job, and she was the one in charge of the whole process, and in presenting everyone who had the speakers and all of that. So there was a session beforehand with His Excellency and the candidate ministers who were expected to be sworn in at that time. So whatever happened in that backdoor session was not revealed to the public that was there, Jeffrey. So in all of that, the oath of office took place, so that when they were presented to the people in the hall, in the conference hall, they were able to come in their position as prime minister and ministers of whatever position that they would hold in ministries. So that took place. So when they came in, His Excellency's task was over, meaning that when he came into the hall, he came there as just as in his role to witness what was organized by the government of St. Martin, in this case the government of St. Martin. He came to witness that himself, and in that capacity his job was done. So there was no need for him to speak any further in that setting. So he did not speak in that setting. He had his moment in the setting before, I can imagine, where he presented, he said what his vision and what was expected and the role that he plays as governor of St. Martin. So that was not in that setting. But we had the former prime minister speak, as I said earlier. Then we had the father of the Catholic Church. He blessed the service, and what was really good to hear from the Mistress of Ceremony from Ife by the joys, that St. Martin being recognized as a Christian community and all of that, God-fearing people, and a country that knows our God, and that really impacted me personally as a believer myself. and she said,
A disciple.
correct, the disciple. And for me, it was a moment, where we as Christians could smile and say, "Thank you, God." That the government, that this incoming government, recognize you, God Almighty. You know what I'm saying, and put you in your rightful place, and that was great to see happen that moment, and for the country of St. Martin, because I believe that it brings blessings from above. It brings blessings from above. I need to get my phone out of the way. I can't. Jeffrey, let me just I need to take that call. That's an important call. When I'm talking to the folks that. So what happened was that the after the father of the Catholic Church, after he blessed this ceremony, we went right into the mistress of ceremony, introducing the incoming, the honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Luc Messalina. We having a call in the background there, so we got to get it out of the way because someone is trying to call. It's an important call, so I needed to get it out of the way because if it's not important, is it an emergency?
No.
Okay, if it's not an emergency, then we sorry for the interruption. But so what happened after is that in any case, everyone was waiting for the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Luc Messalina to be brought forward.
I would love to hear his
presented.
speech.
Yeah, and he what was nice when he said because before that they what was said is that protocol. I'm getting a caller is coming in, and this call doesn't seem to be.
Maggie.
Just 1 second, can you please bear with us? When we're doing these live stream views, you never know what's happening if it's an emergency. So sometimes we have to take calls because you just never know.
I think NIV.
You have.
Hold on a second.
What is that? You can ask me the question of them.
Yeah,
NIV.
Which Bible you want?
No, it's an NIV. NIV. They're asking what Bible I want to get. NIV. So a New International Version. So see that someone is buying me a Bible.
Where?
But in any case, the Honorable Prime Minister came up to speak, and he had his speech very much prepared, Jeffrey.
No. Okay.
Yeah, well, I was, but at the same time, the content of his speech spoke of change.
It was strong.
It was very strong. The words were very strong. He really gave to those present, but of course, this video of his speech would be presented to you, the people of St. Martin, and all around the world, especially in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, especially to the Netherlands as well, so that they can understand, they can get a vision as to where this government is going under the leadership of Prime Minister Dr. Luc Messalina and the rest of his team. And I can tell you, we were there. He was very passionate, speaking about the country, where we have to take it in various areas, talking about the economy, talking about the health aspect, he talked about specifically the mentally challenged. He touched on that area very, 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 very
strong.
Very, very strong. Some words he used. He used some terminology the way that Obama would speak to the people. Where it was, yes, you could understand because it related to the individual. Because if some of the subjects that he spoke about touched the individual who was sitting there in various areas. So if it's the business sector, he spoke things about the business sector. So a businessman would say, "Hey, this government seems to be doing it the right way." Or if he spoke to someone that is challenged with a health, or have a family member that is challenged with a health situation, he spoke to them. Yes, he spoke to them also, and they got the hope. He spoke also to the country of the kingdom. He spoke to specifically also to I would say The Hague as well, Jeffrey, and where the relationship is important, and also the fact that that within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, whether it's Curaçao, Aruba, as well as the Netherlands, that there needs to be a respect of the various countries, and he used some other language that was very, very strong, that was very well taken by those who were there. I was sitting amongst some very high level dignitaries of the past. Some of them were, lieutenant governors, some of them were high advisors and councils and all that, so I could hear some of the comments, and it was very, very refreshing to hear what he said, what he had to say. And you could see the body language, because I was looking around to see the responses, Jeffrey, and I could see that, they were saying, hey, if it was just politics, it's all left to be seen, but I can say it's part of my government. This is my coalition government. I am the president of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is part of this coalition government, and just to let you know, our leader, who is the president of Parliament, is also seated to the front with his Excellency, and all of them in that capacity. So it was very important for His Excellency, for the President of Parliament and the members of Parliament attended, for let's say the ministers falling within the Council of Ministers, to hear where their leader intended to take them. Of course, the governing accord already explicitly indicates the direction that this government wants to take St. Maarten as a country, but this government wants to represent the people of St. Maarten. And it was very refreshing. At times he spoke to about his family. He spoke about Jeffrey, he spoke about his parents, and so, that was very emotional. Yeah. Very emotional. He spoke about his parents, and that they were probably, I don't know if they were able, but I can't say for sure. But in any case, he was very emotional at that time. He spoke about his parents. You could have heard in his tone that he was touchy. Yes, so you could hear in his voice that, which was very emotional, and that touched people. That resonated with a lot of people. So then you could see that, you're looking at a leader of a country that has love for family, and also should then have that resonate into having love for the people of St. Maarten. And that was something that was, it was well presented. And there's other areas that he touched on that I don't want to get into. You will see his speech itself. But what he also did too, after protocol was already established, he said to the people there, he said, "This is my first time in this capacity with my first speech as the Prime Minister of St. Maarten, and so I want to establish protocol. I would want to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, the presence of the President of Parliament, the presence of the High Council, the presence of the other other ministers, the presence of the members of Parliament, special dignitaries, guests, families, friends, everyone was there." He wanted in this first speech to recognize them, even though protocol had already been established. He wanted to say it for himself, and that I really appreciated him doing that. So all in all, it was a good session. After that, the members of the Council of Ministers sat with the press, and then we were able to disperse from the hall into another section in the building where there were snacks and and drinks and so, and mingling of people that you can, while we were waiting the ministers, the Council of Ministers, to come in, and then for the first time then join families and friends and everyone in their capacity as ministers. So that was the first time for me personally that I was able to address all of the ministers as honorable minister, and I want to specifically single out our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Marinka Gums, as well as our Minister of TN, the Honorable Maarten. And while I'm on that note, because you ask I think you asked a few questions. You said about 7 and 9, but I wanted to make mention of that. Apart from apart from the Prime Minister, who's from the URSM party, the URSM party also. So that is the Prime Minister also holds general affairs, and then you have also the URSM party holding the Ministry of VSI. VSI is a Dutch abbreviation for public health, social affairs, and labor. So Volksgezondheid en Arbeid. Okay, so and that was none other than Janssen, Veronica Janssen, Honorable Minister of VSI, Mrs. Veronica Janssen. We want to say congratulations to her as well. And then let me just go into the Democratic Party. So I'm going into sequence. So those are two ministers. I said the Prime Minister and the Minister of VSI. That is two ministers. And then we went right into the Democratic Party ministers. The Minister of TIAD, which is Tourism, Economic Development, Aviation, Transportation, and Telecommunication. Though that was our two ministers that I just mentioned earlier, a minute ago. And Finance. So those are two other ministers. So we are up to four ministers, and then we go to the Party for Progress. The Party for Progress holds the Ministry of ROMI, Public Housing, Physical Planning, Public Housing, Environment, etc. And that ministry is the candidate minister for that ministry. The whole process, the screening process for the candidate minister, Mr. Ryan Peterson, has not been completed as yet. So that is still ongoing. So that ministry, for the time being, will be taken. Let me put it in a different way. There will be an acting minister of VROMI. In this case, I think I made a note of that. The acting minister of VROMI, Veronica Janssen. Veronica Janssen will be the acting minister until it is the process with Mr. Ryan Peterson is completed. And then we have also the Party for Progress was appointed the Minister Plenipotentiary, and that's why we're going to 9, Jeffrey, because I'm including the Minister Plenipotentiaries. So the Party for Progress has a Minister Plenipotentiary, Mr. Gums. I'm trying to. I have it written down. Where's my phone?
And
my phone. You took my phone from me. I want to get back my phone. Yeah, because I had it all written down here. I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to just go back through it so that I don't make any mistakes, so that I can give you all the information in the right sequence. So number 1, Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luc Mercelina. Then we have the Minister of TIAT, Grisha Heiliger Maarten. And then we have the Minister of Finance, Marinka Gums. Then we have the Minister of Justice, Lyndon Lewis. And thereafter we have the Minister of VSI, Veronica Janssen Webster. And then we would have, as I said earlier, we will have an acting Minister of ROMI, which will be Veronica Janssen. And then we would also have the whole process that is not completed yet for the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Mekis. So the minister candidate for that ministry is the Honorable Member of Parliament, Christophe Emmanuel. So he is still going through the process. So that is still oncoming. So there's going to be an acting Minister of Mekis in the position of the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice of the
Lyndon
party of now. The Minister of Justice, Mr. Lyndon Lewis, he will then act as the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports for the time being until the whole process, screening process has been completed for the Honorable Christophe Emmanuel. Now let's go on. And I said earlier, we have a Minister Plenipotentiary, in the person of Patrice Gums from the Party for Progress, and then we have also the acting, the number 9, the acting minister plenipotentiary, Dr. Andres Gracita Ardel, and she is from the URSM party. So those are the 9 individual minister candidates, of which 7 were sworn in, pending 2 to come, and those are the persons that were present at the session or at the inauguration ceremony of the Council of Ministers yesterday, Friday, May the 3rd. Jeffrey, if you have any questions, because I'm looking through some of my notes here, I know I wanted to highlight a few things here because I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss some things, and I may be reading some of the things that I wanted to say, and I might just read a few things quickly just to give you a whole highlight of the whole process, so that the people, the live stream viewers, in your free time when you play it back, you can get a sequence of the events. I said to you earlier that we had a informateur appointed by His Excellency the Governor in the persons of Candia Joseph and Dr. Dela Ardain, informateurs. And so His Excellency Ashamu Bailey, he did that appointment. Then I said to you, we went through that process in which the formateur was appointed. I already mentioned that. But what I made note of here as well that is important to mention is that yes, I already mentioned the acting minister from me is the minister of VSI. So the acting minister from me is the acting minister of VSI. I also want to mention that the acting minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports is the Minister of Justice. I said that earlier. I also made note here where I said former Dr. was, yes, I said it already that he was appointed by His Excellency. I talked about that already. I talked about the 4 coalition parties. I talked about that. I talked about 8 of the 15. That's the majority of the 8 of the 15. I talked about that. I talked also about the fact that we came out of an election on January the 11th of the year 2024, and now we have finally had the sworn-in procedures done yesterday, Friday, May the 3rd, in the year of our Lord 2024, yesterday. Then I made a note here of other important matters needing to be mentioned is 1. The Honorable Viren Kutai, one of our members of our DB party, as Minister Richardson Maarten now takes the place in office as a minister. She has moved on from member of parliament to the minister function. Jeff, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, my question to that is, I want to know, and maybe the viewers would like to know, if Gretchen Heidegger Maarten has already resigned from being a parliamentarian.
Good question. Good question. I wouldn't
because I read the newspaper, and it was very strange where they said we right now have 13 members of parliament, and not 15 members.
13 members of parliament.
We don't have 15 members of parliament right now as we speak. We only have 13 members of parliament because 2 members of parliament resigned already.
Good question. Good question. And you have to know if that is confirmed, because
that is confirmed. I read it.
Okay, but you read it in the newspaper.
In the newspaper.
But is it a fact?
Yeah, because Monday coming, there will be the meeting where they're going to put these 2 new members in parliament.
Well,
on Monday coming, but it was supposed to happen already.
But you see,
we had a situation where the meeting was postponed.
Yeah, on Thursday,
because of not having a quorum.
What can happen, Jeffrey?
Yeah.
What can happen in this case here? And we are just having our discussion on it. It can be so. Just don't forget that we have not reached to the 10th of May. So
no, of course.
So any new minister who was a member of parliament can be both minister and member of parliament at the same time until the 10th of May exceeds, that date exceeds. So it is also possible, we're not saying that that is the fact, we're just saying it is possible that based on what happened on Thursday, it can be so that MP Grisha Heiliger Maarten did not resign as yet as an MP. That is possible. Maybe that's not the case.
No, that's not the case.
And it can be that in the next Parliament meeting, a few agenda points will take place. The accepting of the resignation of MP Grisha Heiliger Maarten, that is possible. Mm-hmm. That is possible. And another time I see you saying no.
No, because I read it that Grisha Heiliger already resigned.
No,
and the other person, another person that resigned as well. Can't remember who it is.
From Parliament.
From Parliament, yeah.
Yeah. The other person who's minister that would have to resign would be no, not from the URSM. Yeah, great Messalina, Dr. Messalina.
Oh,
he's an MP.
Messalina.
So the prime minister would have had to resign. So
yeah,
it means that the prime minister, Dr. Luke Messalina, as well as Honorable Grisha Heiliger Maarten, has resigned from Parliament. So the Parliament sitting now has 13 members of Parliament. Okay, that's what it was mean. But yeah, I believe, and I may be wrong, I can be corrected by some, but I would have to see an official document saying that, because my political experience would dictate to me, if it did not happen on Thursday, that these two members of Parliament resigned to be appointed ministers on Friday, to make way for those two members of Parliament to come in from their various parties in sequence. So I think from the URSM it would be Mr.
Dr. Messalina.
No, from the URSM, who would come in after Mr. Brugge.
Mr. Brugge.
MP Brugge would have been the one in sequence to come in, and then from our party, the Democratic Party, Mr. Viren Kutai. So if it is so that they have not been sworn in as yet, it would mean that you would have a Parliament with 13 members going into Monday. Yeah, 13 members, and that would mean that you don't have Dr. Luke Messalina as well as MP Grisha Heiliger Maarten from the coalition government in office, in Parliament. That means you would have then a 6-7 situation.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
Okay? So those are the technicalities, but it's just food for thought so that you can understand how this works. But I can almost imagine that in the next Parliament meeting, where the Honorable Viren Kutai as well as the Honorable Richardson Brugge are then accepted as members of Parliament, that whole process will then take place, that the resignation of the former MPs and the appointment of the new MPs.
But what I'm telling you,
because
I heard the resignations are already finished. They already put in their resignation, believing that Thursday,
I know
those
that, but I know
two
what you
new
want to say.
members was going to be appointed.
No, but I understand what you.
But I didn't
Jeffrey, I know that you want to say that. I know
Yeah.
exactly. That's what we're having these kind of interact.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you want. You want to
not what
say.
I want, so what I know.
I know what you mean. What you're saying. Thursday should have taken place.
Exactly.
So Thursday, all this should have happened. Exactly. For whatever reason, this is how the politics work. It didn't happen. It could also mean that these two honorable members of Parliament stayed on, because you said you read it. The only thing for me, Jeffrey, I don't want to debate.
I'm telling you, I read it from the President of Parliament. I saw it on what you call it,
Okay, good.
on
No problem. It's clear.
Facebook,
No. It's clear.
where
Okay,
it was
no,
said that
no problem. No
they
problem.
resigned because they passed the screening, so they
Yeah.
resigned,
Yeah.
but with the intention that Thursday that those two persons was coming into government.
I don't want to even get into
But
that.
it happened so that even the members that from that coalition did not even show up, and it happened so that they didn't get
Listen,
to get them in.
let me tell you this from experience. I wouldn't even want to debate it, to
Yeah.
touch that. But it is what it is. The new council ministers have been appointed yesterday, Friday the 3rd,
Yeah.
and on Monday then you will be having
The new members.
the new members of parliament. So
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and it doesn't matter because the electoral law dictates, the Central Voting Bureau dictates that if one member of parliament resigns, the one in sequence on that party from which they were elected will automatically come in. So that's not a problem. So
the only thing with them is they check their credentials.
Yeah, but
that's the only thing.
But that's a process. It's all
Yeah,
formality.
that's a
all
formality.
So that's not a routine
Exactly.
thing. But what I'm saying is that all that will take place on Monday,
On Monday.
in Monday's session. So
Yeah.
that is clear. So I just wanted. That's
think
why I mentioned. I just wanted to
we're down
mention.
to our last.
I just wanted to mention that, Jeffrey, because you took some of my time, and so I got to take back my time from what you said, because you and I were having a debate as to what really happened, what
it's not a
possibly could
debate.
have happened. But so we just wanted to mention that when MP Christian Maarten moved on to being minister from the Democratic Party, Viren Kutai became the honorable member of parliament. So that was also important to mention. I'm looking at other notes that I have here. I don't want to make sure that I don't have make any more errors there. So I think we more or less covered everything that I wanted for us to cover today. Right, and I think that I didn't know one. That's for me, last but not least. And I want to read something. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to end here. I don't want us to have a debate in it, but just as how I read it, I want it to be then interpreted by the wise men and women out there who understands how this works, and the rules and the laws and the policies and the ordinances and all that. And I made a note here, and I said, touch on the subject of the unwritten rule. This has to do with the unwritten rule or the unwritten law. This unwritten rule and unwritten law is something that has stayed with me. And you know that, Jeffrey, because I spoke to you about that long ago when I was working with the Honorable Commissioner Dennis Pontiflet back in those days in the 80s, 90s, when he spoke to me and he explained to me about the unwritten rule or the unwritten law. And the unwritten rule, unwritten law had to do with whether it is an executive council or it's a council of ministers, where even if you have a whole process or you want to make an appointment, that you want to make a decision on something, sometimes a minister has the power ultimately to take a decision on something because it is his or her rightful thing to do by law, and by way of an unwritten rule. A minister can establish something just by saying this is what he intends to do, this is what he has decided to do or she has decided to do, whether it is in their position as minister or in the council of ministers. So they can make an appointment which can be not a policy, but can be seen as an unwritten rule or called an unwritten law. I just want to make that clear to start with. How it really works, and I'm going to continue, how it really works. And it is all based on, and I'm going to say this, how it really works, this unwritten rule, because I'm going back now to what has been happening now since 10 in various council of ministers, and what has been done with the whole process of the what you call the process of the screening process and all that, and discussions about, but we did this like that the last time, and then it was done previously the same way. How is it going to be changed? And I made note of that. I said how it really works, and it is all based on continuous practices of the past. It is based on continuous practices of the past. And I continue to say solution. The solution is to present these unwritten rules or laws to Parliament to be approved as a law. And I want to end there by saying that, by reading that and that. But what I also wrote here too, I said our governor can, and this is my opinion, my personal opinion, our governor can indirectly play a role in assisting the politicians in rectifying this, establishing documented clarities since the, and I said establishing documented clarities since, and let me make sure I don't miss wrong. Establishing documented clarity since the role of the governor is pivotal. Why do I say pivotal? Because especially since the governor has to sign off on the approval of all national decrees for all candidate ministers. What am I trying to say here? At the end of the day, if His Excellency the Governor of St. Maarten feels for whatever reason that he does not want or refuse to sign off on the national decree for the appointment of a candidate minister, it will not happen. Of course, there are other processes to take after that happens, or if the governor refuses for whatever reason not to, you would have to prove what, and the reason is also a strong reason not to. But it is the governor and the prime minister's role to play. But the prime minister's hand is still tied because the governor, if the governor of St. Maarten does not sign off on a national decree making the minister candidate officially a minister of the Council of Ministers, it can never happen. So there you go. We have passed over time. Food for thought. Those law experts, those social experts, they know this better than Jeffrey or I do. But we just wanted to mention that for your eyes to be open as to where the power really lies. Where the power really lies, and if it should lie there, because there were also some mention in the paper talking about the role of the governor versus the role of the role of the governor versus the role of
Prime Minister,
of His Majesty the King in the Netherlands, as far as it pertains to government, is concerned. There's a statement on that. So those are things that has to be looked at in terms of reform of the I forgot the name of it. The reform of governing of the Kingdom of Netherlands. But in any case, I'm going to leave it for there. This has been a very, very, very complex discussion today. I was challenged myself to be able to keep up with what we were trying to say. I want to thank Jeffrey very much for keeping me intact with a lot of what we said, but some of what we said could have been our own opinion. Some of it is factual, some of it is based on experiences of the past, based on unwritten rule, and based on things that continue to happen, and we make it habitual, and that is something that we need to address and address in our constitution by way of establishing laws to have these things eliminated and eradicated from continuing to happen. Jeffrey, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. One of the things that is factual, and that is something that is not our opinion, is the fact that any kind of decree or law, anything, must have the signature of
the
governor.
Absolutely.
Must have
absolutely.
It.
If the
Don't
governor,
care how you try to get away from that.
Decides
and there's a reason why they do that. There's reasons why they do that.
That is absolutely
but they
correct.
Must
100%.
have that signature.
If that signature is not there, that national decree,
it can't go.
Which comes from the governor. If that does not happen, then It cannot go through. And
No,
then,
it can't go through.
and then you would ask yourself, national decree. What does national decree means in terms of how does the national decree by the governor having have to sign off
Have to
on
sign
what
off.
pertains to our autonomy within our
Autonomy.
constitutional structure of our country. So whether it is St. Martin, Curacao, Aruba, the
Yeah.
fact that there's a national decree that has to be signed by the governor, from sometimes it makes me think back on my experiences of the past of what I term in Dutch as it as being as een algemene maatregeling van Rijksbestuur.
Of course.
And
But it
that
is.
is what it is. An algemene maatregel van
Of course.
Rijksbestuur means basically high supervision. That is my
Yeah.
position that I take. I've been through that period of times, under the reign of Professor Dr. Ernst Berlin. I worked at that time. I know exactly how it worked, and I know exactly what took place from that time up until now. So these are some of the things that we have to seriously look at as representatives of the people of St. Martin, specifically in Parliament, our Council of Ministers, in our Parliament. We have all kinds of platforms where discussions are. They talk about the Vierlanden overleg and all of that, and how IPCO, we talk, not really IPCO, but Vierlanden overleg. How important is all of that? Does it make any sense? And so things like that is where there have to be much reform, and we are looking forward that this government of St. Martin under the prime ministership of Dr. Luc Berslina, and based on his speech yesterday, it would seem as if he is eluding in that direction, that things cannot continue to be the same, and we would hope that this new coalition government, I know there are some very passionate representatives in this new coalition government that can see themselves being a part of supporting more autonomy for St. Martin, and which would also mean Curaçao and Aruba following suit within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. There must be some level of equality.
But Curaçao,
yes,
Curaçao already is going towards that direction.
That direction. You understand? So
Yeah.
so that is way. So it's something that at the end of the day, it has to be so that the Netherlands, and I'm talking about the Kingdom government, and that's why the people think about the Kingdom government. The Kingdom government is really the Dutch government. I keep saying that all the time. The Kingdom government is the Dutch government. The only difference in the Kingdom government to the Dutch government is that they have the additions of the 3 ministers and 3 acting ministers plenipotentiaries, which come from the 3 countries of the Dutch Caribbean islands. But the authority of these 3 minister plenipotentiaries are nil, because for me they are functions as let's say high civil servants. They have no power, they have no voting rights in the Council of Ministers, and so the minister plenipotentiaries of these 3 countries in the Dutch Caribbean, they answer to the prime ministers of those countries. Am I correct with that, Jeffrey?
That's correct.
So the minister plenipotentiary of St. Martin answers to the prime minister of St. Martin. So when you say so when you look at it, really, the prime minister of St. Martin, the prime minister of Curaçao, the prime minister of Aruba should be part of the Kingdom government and not a minister plenipotentiary. Probably a minister plenipotentiary can be a secretaris to the prime minister. But if you have the 3 prime ministers of the 3 countries in the Caribbean be part of the Kingdom government, then they would have the same rights and power as a minister in the Netherlands, and that would be a way of showing and indicating true and real reform for the Kingdom of the Netherlands. I'll leave it as that. Thank you very much, all of you, for viewing. I know that this has been a very, very, very complex discussion. I hope you've understood and was able to follow it as we presented it to you. It was just to try to, how should I say, muster up the experts out there to have discussions on this, because we are not the experts. We are just bringing it from our experiences and from our knowledge of the past and what we know and what we understand and what we've been part of over the years that we have been in government and in politics. Jeffrey, any closing remarks from you?
No, that's all. I think we passed our time, and I just want to thank all of you that was on today, and hopefully next week we will have much more of you on. Next week, 1 o'clock on Saturday. And God bless all of you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. God bless all of you and have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.